Hello everyone, this is James Shore with another test-driven development video. Today is January 30th, 2012, and this is a very exciting episode because this is our 160th episode, which makes this the last episode of our first week of programming. Each episode is about 15 minutes long, actually slightly less than that, and 15 minutes times 40 hours is 160. So the work we've done so far, even though it's taken over a year to record, corresponds to about 1 week of full-time work, which is a neat milestone. So thank you for coming along with me on this journey. It's been a lot of fun so far. I'm looking forward to continuing it. So when we left off, what we were working on was the save file persistence. And the code doesn't compile right now, it looks like. Yeah, I was just doing some experimenting. And I closed with a question, how do we store data? And I got a lot of responses on my blog. I really appreciate everybody's response. Thank you for that. And a bunch of interesting ideas. Bram Wellett says, and I'm going to apologize in advance for mispronouncing everybody's names. Bram Wellett says, suggest using an XML serializer. Kwamrana suggests saving the characters the user's types directly, the strings, rather than storing the dollar values. And Michael Svoboda, I think I got that completely wrong, he really liked that idea. And he also implemented a spike, which I haven't looked at because I want to approach this fresh live so you can see how I approach design problems. But I do encourage you to look at Michael's solution and see what he did, and it might be interesting to compare what he does with what I end up doing. Or make your own solution and link it in the comments. I'd love to see other people's solutions as well. I'll take a look at all the different solutions after I've had a chance to implement a solution on camera, again, so I can do it fresh and without any preconceptions. Karsten Bering suggests reusing the render method, using a different render target, and he links to an article where somebody has done that. Brave Cobra suggests using JSON for the file format. Kier Christensen also likes using the render idea. So a bunch of different responses. Thank you again for all your responses. And my favorite idea is Kwamrana's idea of just saving the characters the user types. It has a real elegant simplicity to it in that right now the biggest problem we're facing is not how do we get the data out of the domain layer, but how do we get it without corrupting it? Because when the data is put in and converted to a dollar value, invalid dollars, it's turned into a double, which means we lose all of the user's original typing. And this is particularly a problem if we type in some invalid values, because that's not stored. I mean, what do we do with that? Do we save that out? I think we should actually save out with the user types. So just storing the raw string makes a lot of sense. Now, what Kwamrana suggested was, well, he didn't say specifically, but in people's follow-ups, the assumption was that we'd just be storing the strings right out of the UI layer, using the configuration panel as sort of the holder for those. And that's one approach, but I dislike the idea of having the string in one place and the domain values having something different and having to somehow map those to each other and keep them consistent. I think one of the fundamental ideas in good object-oriented design is keeping related data together, preferably in the same class. So I had the idea, based on what Kwamrana suggested, of making another dollars class. Right now we have dollars, which is the superclass. We have valid dollars, which is for normal amounts. We have invalid dollars. And I was thinking, what if we had a user-entered dollars class, or maybe we'll have a different name, but user-entered dollars would be a dollars subclass that would keep the string that was originally entered. Unlike invalid dollars and valid dollars, which are the results of calculations or the raw amount, double amount that's put in, a user-entered dollars would keep what the user originally typed and give it back to us when we asked. So in save file, we would type starting balance dot, rather than toString, which is what we have now and doesn't work, instead maybe we'd have a method like toOriginalString. And that would require that rather than taking dollars in our starting balance, we'd say a user entered dollars. So I like that idea a lot. I think it's a neat one. I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot and see what comes of it. So let's go ahead and do it. Okay, so first thing we need to do is get back to known good code. Save file writes contents. I'm going to set this aside for now. Make a note to finish this test. And let's see, what else do we have open? Save is not finished. Yeah, so we're going to come back to all of that. Hopefully that will get us to the point where our tests are passing. Yeah, good. And now I'm going to shut down everything else and go dive into the domain layer and see if we can implement that user entered dollars idea. And my hope is that this should simplify all kinds of things. We have this weirdness of how the parsing is done. It's done in dollars.parse, and then as a result in valid dollars when we do we have to say dollars.create, and there's this, well, that actually isn't going to change. Yeah, there's just some weirdness to it. So I'm hoping that we can take out some of these weirdnesses as well. We'll see how that goes. Okay, I'm going to start by just creating a new test class. So we'll need a new, I can't think of a better name for it right now, so I'm going to go with user entered dollars. I don't want to say something like string dollars because I want to be really clear about the purpose of this class. This class isn't to represent dollars as a string. That's an implementation detail. The purpose of this class is to represent a dollar amount that the user has entered. That's an important distinction, I think. So now we can go ahead and do that, user entered dollars. And let's see, how do we want to approach this? Well, let's start out by moving the parsing logic from dollars and into user entered dollars. In fact, that will be all the tests for dollars tests, so we might be able to get rid of it, which would be cool. And now this should fail. Oh, it didn't though. What's the rule? Oh, of course, because here I'm saying valid dollars.create. What I really want to do is a search and replace. How do I do search and replace in Eclipse? I don't remember. I just want to do a really simple search and replace. How do I do that? Here we go. We want to replace valid dollars.create parenthesis with new user entered dollars. There. And that's much more like it. It doesn't find it. We want to create that class. We're going to have that. I'm not going to have that extend anything just yet. And then we'll need it to, oops, you know what? I did that wrong. I don't want to compare it to, I don't want to replace valid dollars.create. I want to replace dollars.parse. Let's do that again. Dollars.parse, replace with new user entered dollars. Yeah. Okay, that's more like it. And now we'll create the constructor. Okay. Now, looks like it compiles. So now let's run it. It should fail. These things are not equal. Yeah, can't be cast to valid dollars. So, what do I want to do next? It's been a while since I've worked in this domain model, so I'm not exactly sure how I want to approach this. Kind of just diving in with both feet at the moment. Right now it's failing for the wrong reason. I want it to fail for the right reason. Let's slow this down a little bit by commenting out these other tests and these other tests having just one failure. Okay, says it can't be cast to valid dollars. Well, that makes sense. First, let's extend dollars. Got a lot of to-dos here. That's okay. We'll come back to those. Still can't be cast. Well, let's just sneak up on this a little bit. I don't think we're quite ready for this test. Instead, let's do some basic value objects tests, and I'm going to steal those from valid dollars tests. So let's see. Yes, value object. Okay, so we'll use this as our guide. This will be a good start for us. So we're going to want a user entered dollars 1A equals new user entered dollars 1. And we'll do that with 1B and with 2. And then we'll assert that we convert to a string properly. And actually this does raise the question of how do we want toString to work for this? I think actually we're going to want this to convert to $1 like that. So that should fail, and it should fail in a nice clean way. Expected $1, but was blah. Okay, good. Well, already our time is up, so that is where we'll pick up next time with episode 161, which is going to be the start of week 2. So that's pretty exciting. Thanks for watching, everybody. I will catch you next time.